They thought a biker didn't belong in their perfect neighborhood. But when the HOA smashed my door and called my friends trash, they had no idea who they were messing with. My motorcycle crew doesn't ride away from a fight. We just find smarter ways to win. Watch full video, comment below from where you watching, also like and subscribe for more videos. I never thought I'd be the guy who goes to war with his homeowners association. I'm just a quiet mechanic who likes to work on bikes in my garage and have a beer with friends on weekends. But when people push you too far, even the calmest person can snap. It all started 3 months ago when I moved into Pinewood Estates. The houses were nice, the neighborhood seemed clean, and the price was right. The real estate agent mentioned something about an HOA, but honestly, I barely paid attention. I signed some papers, paid my fees, and thought that was the end of it. My name's Mike. I've been a motorcycle mechanic for 15 years, and I run a small but successful custom bike shop downtown. Outside of work, I'm part of a motorcycle club called the Steel Wolves. We're not outlaws or anything, just a bunch of guys and gals who love riding, fixing bikes, and hanging out. Some of us look rough around the edges with our leather jackets and tattoos, but we're mostly just regular folks with regular jobs who happen to love motorcycles. The trouble began when I parked my Harley in my driveway overnight. By morning there was a notice taped to my front door. Violation: recreational vehicles must be stored in garages or off premises. Fine, $50. I was annoyed but paid it. My garage was being renovated, so I had no choice but to park outside temporarily. I called the HOA office to explain my situation. "The rules are the rules, Mr. Davidson," said a woman named Karen Thompson, who introduced herself as the HOA president. "No exceptions." 2 days later, I got another notice for having my garbage cans visible from the street, an hour after collection. Another $50 fine. Then came complaints about the small American flag on my porch, not regulation size, the color of my new garage door, apparently midnight blue, wasn't on their approved color list, despite the salesman assuring me it was, and the bird feeder in my backyard attracts undesirable wildlife. Each violation came with a fine, and each time I called to dispute it, Karen's tone got more condescending. I started to notice an HOA car slowly driving by my house multiple times a day, clearly looking for infractions. One Saturday morning, I was in my garage working on my friend Eddie's bike when a shadow fell across the floor. I looked up to see a man in a polo shirt with the HOA logo, taking pictures. "Excuse me," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "Can I help you?" "You're operating a business from your residence," he said smugly. "Commercial activities are prohibited in Pinewood Estates." "I'm not operating a business. I'm helping a friend with his bike." "Then why are there parts everywhere? Why do you have professional tools? This looks like a repair shop to me." "Because I'm a mechanic by trade and these are my personal tools. I'm allowed to have a hobby." He took more pictures. "The HOA board will decide that." Sure enough, a $250 fine arrived the next day for unauthorized commercial activity. I was fuming but decided to pay it and be more careful. I started closing my garage door completely when working on bikes. The final straw came 3 weeks later. I'd invited a few friends from the Steel Wolves over for a barbecue. There were 5 of us total and we were just grilling burgers and having a few beers in my backyard. Our bikes were parked neatly in my driveway and along the curb in front of my house. At 8:30 p.m., well before the neighborhood noise curfew of 10 p.m., there was a pounding on my door so hard it felt like the house was shaking. "Open up. HOA security." I opened the door to find 4 men in HOA polos. One had his foot positioned like he was ready to kick my door in, and there was already a dent in the wood. "What the hell?" I demanded. "You're in violation of multiple HOA regulations," the leader said, pushing past me into my house without permission. The others followed. "Hey, you can't just." "We've received complaints about a gang gathering, excessive vehicles, noise violations and public intoxication," he continued, ignoring me completely. My friends had come inside to see what was happening. "This is private property," I said firmly. "You need to leave now. Your contract with the HOA gives us the right to inspect for violations," the man said, taking pictures of my living room. "And we're documenting several. Expect the fines in tomorrow's mail." Eddie stepped forward. "Mike asked you to leave. That means you're trespassing." The HOA guy got in Eddie's face. "And who are you? Another gang member?" Things got heated. Words were exchanged. One of the HOA guys shoved Eddie, who stumbled into my coffee table and knocked over a lamp, a handmade one that had belonged to my late father. That's when I lost it. I grabbed the nearest HOA goon by his collar and physically pushed him toward the door. "Get out of my house. Now." They left, but not before one of them smirked and said, "Enjoy your fines, biker trash. We'll make sure they're substantial enough to get our message across. Maybe you'll finally understand you don't belong in Pinewood Estates." The next day, I received notices totaling $1,700 in fines for everything from hosting a gang gathering to threatening HOA officials. There was also a formal warning that any further violations would result in legal action and potential foreclosure proceedings. I was beyond angry. I was hurt, humiliated, and felt powerless in my own home. I called a lawyer who reviewed my HOA contract and grimaced. "This is one of the most restrictive HOA agreements I've seen," he said. "They've given themselves a lot of power. We can fight the fines, but it'll take time and probably cost more than just paying them." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the smug looks on their faces, the dent in my door, my father's broken lamp. Around 3 a.m. I had an idea. A perfectly legal, by-the-book idea that would give the HOA a taste of their own medicine. The next day, I went to the Steel Wolves Clubhouse and called an emergency meeting. "I need your help," I told my friends, explaining the situation. "Those stuck-up HOA jerks broke into your house?" Rico, our club president, looked outraged. "What do you need us to do? Just name it." I smiled. "I need you all to help me read the HOA rulebook. Every single page of it." For the next week, 15 members of the Steel Wolves took turns going through the 127-page HOA rulebook with a fine-tooth comb. We found every loophole, every contradiction, and every poorly defined rule. Then we implemented my plan. Phase 1, the club meeting. The HOA rules stated that residents could host club meetings at their homes with advance notice to the board. Nothing in the rules specified what kind of club. I formally notified the HOA that I would be hosting a vehicle enthusiast club meeting every Saturday. I included all required paperwork, insurance certificates, and even paid the $25 event registration fee. That Saturday, 20 Steel Wolves members showed up at my house, all of them having carpooled in cars with only 5 vehicles total, well within the guest parking allowance. We sat quietly in my backyard, sipping non-alcoholic beverages, no open container violations, and discussing motorcycle maintenance in hushed tones, no noise violations. Karen Thompson and 2 HOA security personnel stood at the edge of my property for 3 hours, desperately looking for violations. They found none. Phase 2, the improvement project. The HOA rules allowed 4 home improvement projects that could last up to 30 days with proper permits. I submitted paperwork to renovate my garage and driveway area, complete with architectural drawings, sketched by Eddie's brother, who was an actual architect. For the next month, 5 different Steel Wolves members, all with relevant trade skills, came to my house daily. We made small, legitimate improvements, reinforcing shelves, installing better lighting, painting in approved colors, and fixing the driveway. Each day, different motorcycles would be parked along the street, always legally, always within allowable hours. We made sure to move them regularly so no single bike was present for more than 3 hours, the parking time limit for non-resident vehicles. The HOA security car was now permanently stationed near my house. They took hundreds of pictures, but we were breaking no rules. Phase 3, the complaint campaign. The HOA rulebook had a section about how to file official complaints against the HOA itself or other residents. It required the board to investigate all property condition complaints within 48 hours. So we started filing complaints. About everything. Everywhere. All by the book. Every member of the Steel Wolves who visited my house filed a formal complaint about something they noticed in Pinewood Estates. The slightly crooked mailbox at the Thompson residence. The non-regulation window treatments at board member Bill Anderson's house. The bird feeder in HOA Secretary Jennifer Miller's backyard, identical to the one I'd been fined for. We submitted these complaints with photographic evidence, GPS coordinates, and citations of the specific rules being violated. All in proper format, all requiring official responses. The HOA office was drowning in paperwork. Phase 4, the community outreach. I printed flyers, designed to exactly match the HOA's approved format for community notices, inviting all Pinewood Estates residents to an HOA rules awareness barbecue at my house. Surprisingly, people came. A lot of people. It turned out I wasn't the only one suffering under Karen Thompson's reign of terror. The Brooks family had been fined because their daughter's pink tricycle was visible from the street. The Patels had received violations for hanging Diwali lights. The elderly Mr. Rodriguez had been harassed about his medicinal herb garden. We shared stories, compared finds, and realized the HOA was targeting anyone who didn't fit their narrow vision of the ideal resident. At this gathering I met Sarah Chin, a lawyer who lived 3 doors down. She'd been fighting her own battle with the HOA over unapproved landscape rocks in her Zen garden. "This is systematic harassment," she said, looking through everyone's violation notices. "And possibly discrimination in some cases. I think we have grounds for a class action." Phase 5, the Clubhouse visit. The final phase of my plan was the most satisfying. The HOA held monthly board meetings at their clubhouse, a small building near the community pool. According to the bylaws, these meetings were open to all residents, with a public comment period required by state law. At the next meeting I showed up with 25 neighbors and 10 steel wolves, all of whom were dressed in pressed khakis and button-down shirts, no leather in sight. Karen Thompson nearly choked on her water when we all filed in and took seats. When the public comment period began, Sarah Chin stood up. "As a resident and attorney," she began, "I'm here to inform the board that I'll be filing a class action lawsuit on behalf of 57 Pinewood Estates homeowners for selective enforcement of HOA regulations, harassment, illegal entry, property damage, and civil rights violations." She placed a thick stack of papers on the table. "These are sworn affidavits from residents detailing their experiences. I've also submitted formal complaints about violations at each board member's residence, with photographic evidence. According to your own bylaws, you must recuse yourselves from any board decisions until these complaints are resolved." The room erupted. Residents stood up one by one to tell their stories. The board members looked stunned. When it was my turn to speak, I was calm. "3 months ago your security team damaged my door, entered my home without permission, assaulted my guest, and broke a family heirloom. You called my friends, gang members, and me biker trash. You told me I don't belong here." I looked each board member in the eye. "I'm a business owner who pays his taxes. I'm a homeowner who takes care of his property. And yes, I ride a motorcycle and have friends who do the same. That doesn't make me less worthy of respect or fair treatment." I gestured to the diverse group of neighbors around me. "Look around. We're all different backgrounds, different interests, different lives. But we all chose to live here and we all deserve the same rights and consideration. If you can't provide that, you shouldn't be running this HOA." The meeting ended with the board agreeing to an emergency session to review all complaints and policies. Within a week, Karen Thompson resigned as president. The security team was disbanded. And the board voted to revise the entire rulebook with input from a resident committee, which included Sarah, me, and representatives from all parts of the community. Today, 6 months later, Pinewood Estates is a different place. The new HOA board focuses on maintaining property values through community improvements rather than punitive fines. We have monthly neighborhood events that celebrate our diversity rather than try to erase it. And every Saturday you'll still find a few motorcycles parked in my driveway. Only now, the neighbors stop by to admire them rather than call security. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about making things right.